So we just finished our accredited course called The 5 Gifts for an Abundant Life. We finished it on Tuesday night. And I chose this course because I wanted something kind of light and something kind of easy and just breezy for the summertime, right? It's hard to be in class in the summertime, so I wanted something that would be kind of easy and breezy. And I never, ever expected it to be quite as profound and life-impacting as it was for everybody, for me and for the students. I'd never taught it before, so I was taking it along with them. Now, all of our classes are profound and life-changing, right? Yeah. But this one, there was something really special about it. And yes, we'll offer it again because I liked it that much. So the 5 gifts that we learned about were gratitude, intention, forgiveness, tithing, and surrender. Now, if you look at this list right here, you would think that tithing would be the one that had a lot of charge around it, right? And I got to admit, the first night, it was true. Not everybody understood that this was a tithing course. I didn't know it because I hadn't taught it before. So there were some deer in the headlight looks, as people commit to tithing for the 8 weeks. So, there was some fear and some resistance to it, but we worked through it. Worked through the fear, we worked through the resistance. I gave them a money-back guarantee, which meant that if it didn't work for you, I'd give you your money back. Nobody's ever taken me up on that, I'll have you know. But I give it just to make people, to be able to breathe. And after that, everybody participated. And came to love tithing, came to see it as the sacred spiritual practice that it is. It's really very special. So then you might think that forgiveness would be the next one that had kind of a charge about it. Forgiveness is tough, right? How many, we're told to forgive 70 times 7. It's like, I thought I've done this already. Why is it up again, right? And yet, as we worked through it, we actually spent 2 weeks on forgiveness. And what people found is that when they were able to forgive, that they got a lot of benefit from it. They got a lot of peace from it. So what was interesting to me about this course was the aspect that had the most consistent charge, both positive and negative, was surrender. Did you notice the theme going on today with our songs? Let it be, I surrender. Yeah. Now, there's some misconceptions about the word surrender, right? It means giving up. It means quitting. It means waving the wild flag. My freak flag. Okay. It means waving the white flag, That's how we were raised to think about it. In fact, the dictionary defines surrender as cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority. Everybody go like this. Yes, indeedy. Understandably, with a definition like that, there is shame, there is disgrace, there is weakness in the act of surrender. And yet, when we look at it from a spiritual standpoint, and we understand that the act of surrender, the kind we're talking about, takes great courage and trust and faith, because it means relinquishing control. It means relinquishing the need to try to push the river. Anybody? It means letting go of the perception of control. It means giving up the fight, letting it be, and allowing the flow of the universe to support us and help us. So we can rewrite this dictionary definition: cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority. And instead, we can make it cease resistance to the universal flow and submit to or allow its wisdom to prevail. You with me? Everybody take a breath. So one of our students was really struggling with this word. And I illustrated to her what the difference was, at least what it meant to me. This is the kind of surrender that we think of. I give up, I'm waving the flag, right? I said, that's not the surrender we're talking about. The surrender we're talking about is this. See the difference? Can you feel the difference? You want to try it? Come on, you guys have been playing with me for a while. Come on. Just like I surrender. Okay, now go like this. I surrender. Feels different, doesn't it? Yeah, feels way different. So this became one of the most popular lessons of the whole 5 gifts class, that learning this art of surrender, of letting it go, so that we can be more powerful, we can be more peaceful, and believe it or not, we can be more abundant. Because when we are in surrender, we're more open to our good coming to us. So the very first night of class, we were introduced to the following affirmation. And we were to say it 100 times a day. Yeah. I surrender to the power and presence of the God within me. I surrender to the power and presence of the God within me. And I have to tell you, for me, like I said, I was taking this course, right? It was super effective. Especially, this has been a stressful couple of weeks or months for me. And when I found my stress level going up or my anxiety going up, I would remember and I would repeat, I surrender to the power and presence of the God within me. I surrender to the power and presence of the God within me. And just the act of surrendering control and my need to try to fix things and the attachment that I had to certain outcomes brought me such a feeling of peace and of calm. And once I had that feeling of peace and calm, I was able to handle the things that were overwhelming me, because I knew that I was being supported, that I was in partnership with something that was greater than me, that was more wise than me, that was more intelligent than just my finite human self. Yes, we have the spark of the divine within us. Absolutely, we have access to all the wisdom of the universe. But if we're just trying to figure things out with our human selves, we don't have access to all of that. Is this making sense? Yeah. Eckhart Tolle said, surrender to what is, say yes to life, and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. Yowza! Now again, I want you to understand that surrendering doesn't mean just laying around, contemplating our navel, doing nothing. Surrender requires action. Surrender requires participation. This is how Ernest Holmes put it. The unlimited universal mind in you, as you, thinks and speaks and creates your good through you, when you are wise enough to permit it. That does not saying it's doing it for you. What is it saying? It's doing it through you when you are wise enough to permit it. It's that last part, that act of surrender. Permitting that limitless universal mind to be expressed through us and as us, rather than thinking we have to do it all by ourselves. But first, I want to share with you a true story, lighthearted. You know me, my stories are usually pretty lighthearted, although I do really like making you cry, but I don't think this one is going to make you cry. So a few years ago, my sisters, my boyfriend at the time, his name was Dave, and I went on a cruise to Mexico. That's not the part that's going to make you cry. There's no crying in this story. You've been on a cruise, you know that they offer you these special excursions to go to kind of enhance your experience, right? So the day we were going to be in Puerto Vallarta, we were scheduled to go whale watching It'd been planned for months. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do is go see the whales. And incidentally, February is an awesome time to go whale watching down there in Puerto Vallarta because that's where all the mamas go to have their babies. So there's tons of mamas and little baby whales. But I could tell that Dave, who was kind of an adventurous spirit, a bit of a daredevil, he wasn't all keen on going whale watching. He was like, yeah, whatever. So we're looking through the excursions, right, and he sees one that's an extreme canopy adventure, zip-lining through the rainforest, right? And his eyes lit up, and he's like, wow, I would love to do that. If I could do that, it would make my whole trip. So we went down to the desk. They have a special excursion desk there, and we asked if we can change his excursion from whale watching to zip lining, and we were told that it wasn't possible. Apparently, there were barely enough people to go whale watching. I mean, what's up with that, people? But anyway, there were barely enough people to go, so if Dave changed his reservation, they didn't meet the minimum of the whale watching trip, and they would cancel our trip, and that wasn't going to happen. So, but they said, come back and check with us, and maybe somebody else will sign up for whale watching, and then he can switch his reservation. So we went back to the desk after dinner that night. Still no luck. Nobody signed up. Couldn't make the switch. So we went to bed that night with the full understanding that all four of us were going to go whale watching in the morning. However, and this is kind of the point of my story, what I'm telling you is that Dave said to me, I'm fine with whale watching, but I just don't think it's over yet. He says, I have a feeling it's going to work out. And I'm like, well, how? We're leaving at 7 o'clock in the morning. How do you think a change is going to happen from now going to bed to 7 o'clock in the morning? How do you think it's going to happen? Now, I want to point out the two very different responses here. You got me, the new thought, spiritual, positive thinking teacher, and I'm frustrated and I'm whiny because we changed our plans and our new plans had been thwarted. And if you know me, I don't like being thwarted. It does not bring out the best in me like this. And here's Dave, kind of clueless. And he's accepting, he's positive, he's going with the flow, he's fine either way, but going to sleep that night believing that it still might just work out. The ultimate surrender. So the next morning we're up early, right? And just as we're ready to get off the ship, we go back to the excursion desk one more time to see if we could make the switch. And the desk was closed. And I'm like, man, I guess that's it. That's it. You're going to go whale watching with us. When out of the corner of my eye, I see the excursion manager walking across the lobby with a clipboard in his hand. Somebody once told me, you always talk to the person with the clipboard. Besides, we'd become friendly with him earlier when we went ATVing on the beach. He was one of the people that was going ATVing on the beach, so we'd become friendly with him, right? And so we raced over to him and we said, dude, is there any way that we could switch this so that Dave could go ziplining instead of whale watching? And he looks at his clipboard and he says, well, I don't see any reason why not. Let's go talk to the trip operator. Or the tour operator. So it turns out that both tours were under the umbrella of the same tour operator, and with a flick of a signature, Dave was on his way to ziplining, and we were on our way to whale watching. And as it turned out, he adored the ziplining. He adored rappelling down waterfalls. It was extreme and it was exciting. And we adored going whale watching because we got to see the mamas with their babies as mama would just encourage the little baby to come up for air. We got to see a big giant manta ray and a big old sea turtle and dolphins. And to put the icing on the cake, we saw one whale breaching 3 times. It was amazing. So, in the big scheme of things, with all the stuff that's going on in the world, oh my God, and stuff that's going on in your personal lives, because I know some stuff that's going on for y'all. This is kind of a trivial story. Oh yeah. Bummer, white privilege, you get to go on a cruise. But it does illustrate the power of surrender and of trust. Because Dave knew that either choice was going to be fine. He was going to have a cool experience. He wanted to go ziplining, but he was going to be okay with whale watching. So he surrendered his attachment to the outcome. He trusted that divine right action was taking place, and he found himself in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. That is surrender. And I'm sure that everyone here has a similar story of something that worked out. But maybe you didn't chalk it up to surrender and non-attachment. Maybe you chalked it up to a coincidence or the strangest thing. Or maybe you won't believe what just happened. And yet, if you trace it back with an open mind, I wonder at some point if you can find a moment when you unconsciously surrendered your attachment to the outcome, which allowed the solution or the answer or the resolution to make itself known to you. So just think what might happen if all of us regularly, on purpose, consciously surrendered to the power and the presence of the God within. What would that be like? One of the students in our class, by the name of Valda Harris, wrote a paper. They had to write a paper on surrender. And what she wrote just touched me so much, I asked her if I could use it for today's talk. And this is what she wrote. Surrender is synonymous with faith and trust. I have this image of diving off a cliff and being supported by the air. I can fly, and it is effortless and invigorating. Not only that, I get the long view, and I can see the connections through a broader perspective of reality and know that it is all working for my good. Yeah? So say this with me. I surrender to the power and presence of the God within. Say it again. I surrender to the power and the presence of the God within me. Now say it soft to your heart. I surrender to the power and the presence of the God within me. And now say it to the rooftop. I surrender to the power and the presence of the God within me, and so it is. That's what I got.